Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm, of course, FPL Nima, and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton. We're here to review the 5-0 victory at the Emirates against Nottingham Forest on Sunday. Apologies for the delay with the review this week. I think it was an exciting result, and we're glad to have kind of hit that reset button that Ramsdale and Arteta both were speaking about. Seen a few people making a pun, obviously, on the reset. Reiss Nelson's also had a reset. How was the game for you? I know it was quite loud where you were sitting. I was kind of looking over and seeing the drum getting back.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I don't know if it's coming across, but I completely lost my voice after the game on Sunday, and it's only just coming back now. But yeah, that honestly, sitting with that Ashburton Army lot, it is the most fun I've ever had, especially at home. But at football, it's just, I think I'm quite nerdy with football, but there is a part of me that is a bit of I guess a traditional football fan, in the sense of I like to be out of my seat. I like to be giving people stick. I like to be chanting. I like it when it's bouncing. So to me, they are a group that when you hear what they're doing, it's just like music to my ears. And that's why I really wanted to get involved. And just big props to what they're doing. I think they are single-handedly the biggest reason behind the change in the Emirates atmosphere. Obviously, it helps with how we're playing, but I think I think primarily it's because of them. And yeah, it was so bloody fun. I got spotted a couple of times in a few of the photos and stuff. And it was I was in row 1 as well, so that was quite cool seeing it from that perspective. But yeah, my voice box is hurting, but it's just nice to hear you say 5-0 out loud. It feels like it's been a while since we've done that at home, and it felt like it's been brewing. Obviously not the last 2 weeks, but before that, it felt like, yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. At the Emirates, a spanking was coming for someone, so I'm glad it was to them on Sunday.
I think when we spoke in the preview, we obviously talked about that they'd only kind of conceded 1 penalty in the last 3-4 games. That kept the clean sheet against the likes of Liverpool and Brighton. It felt like they'd just found their secured starting 11 after buying 25 players. All the narrative before the match going into it seemed to be that they're not a walkover. There were certain FPL accounts, one which I won't name.
I'm curious now because I've not picked up straight away, but
yeah, no, certain people were saying that their FPL advice for the week was to not buy Arsenal assets.
I think I've just clocked
defensively sound. Obviously, I'm friends with them online in our group chat, so I won't name and shame them, but they very quickly have circled back from that and said,
I'm glad you said that, right? Because it was all narratives, and what we'd like to do in our previews is obviously look at the data for a season, not just kind of narratives that are running. Because even though they beat Liverpool, the underlying numbers, that Liverpool had chances, and then when we broke down the actual season numbers, it was chances galore, left, right, and centre. And that's why we were looking out on it. And even a narrative from Arsenal was the last couple of weeks had been a bit rough, this, that. And then
we'd only scored 1 goal a game for 4 or 5 games. Then we didn't even score against PSV.
Yeah, and then we both looked at the data, kind of just assessed the level of our team versus theirs, look at the factors such as the size of the pitch at the Emirates and how that benefits how we play. We both predicted 3-0, and it's I do think sometimes narratives just absolutely fly for zero logical reason. So yeah, that was bloody fun. And so
how did you feel going in at half time? Obviously it was 1-0, so Saka was a bit of a worry. I remember seeing him get taken out and kicked in the first minute, and he kind of stayed in a heap on the floor for a bit, got up, and the guy sitting next to me actually was like, "Oh, he doesn't look right. We need to sub him." And he was saying it from 1 minute in, and I was like, "Oh, he seems okay." But then, the more this guy said it to me, I kept looking at Saka hobbling around, and when we were waiting to use him as an outlet, he'd be slowly hobbling into position. I was like, you know what, this guy might have a point. He doesn't look like he's completely there. He's clearly not able to carry on. When the sub happened, he was like, who's going to come on? And obviously with my mind, I was thinking, maybe Nketiah, we'd seen him at left.
I thought it'd be Nketiah and then shift Jesus to the right.
And then I kind of thought, I guess we could do that, but then that's a bit strange because we've seen Nketiah at left, but then where's Martinelli going to play? Surely he's not moving Martinelli, and Then I was like, Vieira's played up there on the right wing. So I was like, is he going to bring on Vieira? When he did pick Nelson, it might be a bit of hindsight, people will say, but I'll be honest with you. Like, I did think to myself, and I think I've told you this before, that, oh, that makes sense. Like, we keep the team dynamic. Like, we bring on an actual right winger at right wing. And clearly, like, he's ahead of Marquinhos now, again, after that performance back in the pecking order, which wasn't the case a few weeks ago. Again, the guy next to me, actually, he was not very hot on Reiss Nelson. He wasn't very pleased. But as soon as he saw, like, Nelson putting in the work, and after that first goal onwards, he was like, I'm so happy you proved me wrong. And I think that's just something I want to say about the mentality now. Like, we've come from an environment where for years, like, people will be frustrated at our players, you know, not happy with what they were doing. And now I think in the same way Xhaka's had his redemption arc, I think a lot of players, like, they're now coming into a team that's got a set system. We're playing well, but performing well. And I can only imagine that when you're in that kind of environment, having your players who don't play every week come off the bench and still feel like they're part of the squad to then go and actually perform, like, that's a big deal, because it's very easy to have players who sit on the bench and then they end up becoming like the kind of, I guess, the rebels, you could say. And when they do come on, they don't feel motivated because they never come on. And whereas it does feel like we've got this thing now where whoever comes on, whenever we sub someone, like even when Cedric came on, for example, like, they all seem to feel like they're very much a very tight-knit team. Very like everyone's part of this team that's top of the Premier League.
Everyone knows their roles, and it's like, you can tell the recruitment and the makeup of the squad. It's like, all right, someone has to drop out, you just slot right in, and you know exactly what your role is. And like, I think one thing that was interesting with Nelson was, I personally thought he was lacking a bit of confidence at, like, when he first came into it, and you could just see his confidence grow throughout the game. Obviously, he got that goal just after half time, and because I thought he was actually coasting a little bit around. And
he looked very different after that first goal. I did notice, like, he suddenly was willing to, like, play more attacking. In the first half when he came on, I did feel that at 1-0, like, I was starting to get worried, because obviously they had that chance right before the end of the half where thank God Ben White, like, you know, slipped in to deny Lingard from tapping it in. But
was that the Gabriel pass, right? I was like, my God.
I wasn't going to mention it in case you didn't notice who it was, but I'm guessing you were row one, like, you saw it first.
I was like, what is he doing?
So when that happened, I was feeling quite nervy. It kind of gave me a bit of a reminder of, obviously, the Leeds game, the Southampton game, you know, going up 1-0 and then not taking chances, and then next thing you know, like, they've got this perfect chance that we just about survived from. And I thought, oh no, please don't tell me the second half's gonna be a long day. And Nelson was the frustration. I could see people in the crowds, they were kind of like, why is it every time he gets the ball, like, he won't, like, you know, he won't try to run past his man. Like, he just was very defensive.
Honestly, like, it is the basics of football. Like, when you're coming into a team and it's your first appearance in the Premier League for a while, like, you just do the basics to get yourself in, get your confidence. Like, it's a completely different level. But I had my first game for my 11-a-side team on Saturday, and I was nervous. Like, I play centre mid, and all I was like, there were opportunities to break lines and switch the ball, and I wasn't doing that. I was playing like El Neni, just to kind of get your touches on the ball, get your confidence up, and you can tell that's what he was doing. And like, you could tell, okay, so he got into halftime, people were groaning and stuff, and then look at his sort of confidence straight after halftime to take the ball where he did. Great pass from Jesus shifting out to him. He kind of dummied it a little bit, sent a guy on the floor for a hot dog, and then and you can tell that.
I told that to the guy next to me. I was kind of like, you know what? He sat those defenders down. It wasn't even just the one guy. Like, he sat down the first guy, but the guy behind him also fell over. So when I watched the replay, he basically sat down two defenders to take the first shot before. Obviously, he had to then go and, you know, claim the rebound. But it wasn't an easy shot to take, considering, like, there's someone who's
not at all. Like,
not played in the Prem for years.
And there was such a limited space in that little, like, pocket that he shot in. But for me, it was just, Nelson was just a case of, you could see a player there going up the confidence levels during the game, and like, just so happy for him. And I hope he can kind of nail this, but obviously not nail it down to be a starter, but like, nail it down when he gets the opportunity and do well. Because like you've said it quite a lot, no one's ever questioned the talent with him. Like, he was being spoken about same level as Sancho growing up and stuff.
When they were growing up, like, we always forget that injuries kind of slowed down his career trajectory quite a bit, and not every player kind of develops at the same way or same pace. And I'm trying to think who it was. It may have been Arseblog guys. They were talking about, like, certain players, they've kind of gone through like the trenches to get to where they are in their career. So like they kind of arrive.
It's
And
our whole
yeah,
team. Like you look at, I was reading an Athletic article about it, and it's like Ramsdale, obviously with his relegations, Ben White's played through the whole football league. That I was reading in the article, there's something about Jesus. I can't remember what his story was, but Martinelli coming
well,
from
Jesus, like at the earlier World Cup, there's a picture of him like
that was it.
sweeping the
Yeah.
street, cleaning it. Like
So like,
he was like
yeah.
not even really playing professional football back then.
Yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about. You probably heard the audio thing of what I read, and
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
it was exactly that, talking about people coming through the trenches. And the quote I remember reading was exactly on Nelson, like seeing people kind of developing. So he was in the
I guess
same
they
age bracket.
leapfrog him, right? Like suddenly, like Saka
Exactly, that's
leapfrogs you,
not
Smith
easy.
Rowe
Yeah,
leapfrogs you. One by one, another young player arrives. Martinelli, he leapfrogs you, and it's kind of like you were like one of the youngest players who started for Arsenal, and you were meant to be like as good or better than Sancho in that
yeah.
age
So it's
bracket.
a
And
different kind of pressure, right? But yeah, good on him. And yeah, just the other thing I was really happy with was it was another electric start. And I guess rewind to your earlier point about was I worried kind of going into half time? I wasn't, like I could sense the kind of energy in the crowd was sapped a little bit. It felt quite similar in sense like we went 1-0 up, and then I think obviously Saka going off had a massive impact on kind of the flow of the game, and yeah, just how we attacked and controlled the ball. But I felt things up until that point were completely fine. And I thought, yeah, we're going to get another one here quite comfortably. It was just after the Saka injury, I just thought it took the sting out a little bit, but it wasn't anything that I personally was concerned about. And then going to the other point was I was just so happy with the start to the game, because that is something that we have just locked down now. Like, what kind of start you're getting with us 9 times out of 10, and it is phenomenal. And B, just how we came out second half. It was like men on a mission, right? It was like, come here, let's just go fucking kill these guys. And yeah, loved that.
And just on that note, the first goal, so obviously, and then we'll go to the second half and talk about some of the other goals. We talked about Nelson's first, but for that first goal, that kind of Martinelli header,
Yeah.
I think
What a run.
it was just insane because like he gave the pass to Saka, right? So when I saw him lay the ball off Saka, at first I thought, what a great pass you've given to Saka in space. I did not expect him to arrive back in the
But it
center of
all
the box.
started from Tommy, though, didn't it? Like,
Yeah,
everyone's been questioning Tommy, and I was bullish on this. I thought Tommy was being scapegoated. I really did. Like, I don't think he was the issue the last few weeks. I think the inverted left back role, for what we want as a team, like Clive from Arsenal Vision talks about it all the time. Forget like how you think about a left back, this, that. Just focus on the roles and zones and responsibilities you've got in our team. And Tommy fits that like a glove. Like yeah, it's
I was
all
going to say it's
opinions, but
quite interesting
I
because
didn't get that at all
because
during
I
the last
thought
week.
that I think a lot of us had been thinking Tierney would be someone we would want to see back in. And when I did see Tomiyasu in the lineup, I wasn't, disgruntled, but I could see
You
some
were
people were like,
surprised.
why is Tierney still not getting in? And what's going on? But then, the fact that it never got questioned again after the game tells you all you need to know about why Tommy started. They might, like, obviously against Liverpool, we can all see it worked and it was meant to be tactical. And I think we were all surprised it kind of carried on. But we said that there was tactical reasons as well, potentially, like for Southampton's kind of, Ward-Prowse's set pieces, the long throws they do.
It was mostly the pressing against Leeds and Southampton that I thought he stayed in. And so while I wasn't disappointed at all, and if anything, I was quite happy, I was more surprised because I predicted Tierney to start this game, and it was more because I thought we'd have space, like which we did, and I just didn't think there'd be the need for it. But you can tell how important it is to have someone that can invert that role and kind of recycle the ball as well as Tomiyasu.
I think he looked better than he's ever done in that role, because this was the first game where obviously I was at the stadium, and
yeah,
like for me, it felt like he was playing in midfield. Like he was almost like
he
doing
was.
the exact blueprint of the Zinchenko role. And I've not seen him necessarily play the inverted role that well. Like a lot of the time, I felt like Tommy was basically in centre mid and Gabriel Maglish was playing left back to cover while he was in the middle trying to be an extra man to support Partey, overload the midfield. I was like, wow, like, okay, clearly, like, there's a reason Arteta's the manager and not me. Like, here we all are screaming for Tierney. But Tomiyasu's come in again, despite all the people saying he shouldn't, and he just shut everyone up, and no one can question him or the manager on that choice.
And again, the other narrative that does the rounds is like Tommy can't overlap and stuff. Like, it's a tactical instruction. You could see there were times in the game where he was offering himself as an overlap option, and the ball didn't go to him, but he was doing it. So it's everything with us. Okay, not everything. 90% of the things you see on the pitch with Arsenal are constructed, and they're constructed and instructed. And yeah, I thought it was a phenomenal performance from him. And like, where I didn't have that bird's eye view, this time I could see it directly. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, he is very central a lot of the time. And I think Tierney's got his strengths, and he is learning that inverted role very well, but he's still not quite as technically clean as you need in there.
Yeah, like, he has looked better. Like, I think we did see some games where Tierney did seem to be able to follow the instructions and try to be a bit more inverted.
But he doesn't have the same level of quality on the ball to pass and switch the play. And yeah, definitely. I think that's the difference. And also, like, I think going back to what you were saying in the first goal, you were talking about Martinelli and how he switched the ball out. That goal starts because of Tomiyasu. And like, you see it with us as a team, how aggressive we are. And you'll see it later on with the pass maps and everything, how high we played. It is high risk, high reward, as we've spoken about so often. You can tell Arteta's so much more comfortable with having someone like Tomiyasu up there trying to close down and intercept and tackle compared to Tierney. And Tomiyasu is one of the best 1v1 defenders in the league. So yeah, it's amazing to see how well he did. And obviously Saka, El Neni are fine and training today, as is Zinchenko. So that will be interesting to see going forward.
And I think we'll talk a little bit about what we expect tomorrow. But just a quick couple shout outs before we bring up the lineup as well. So Dream Team Professor, lovely to see you here live, mate. Come on, you Gunners. We have Glenn as well tuning in. Evening, mate. Christopher's back as well. It's been a crunch time at work, but the time changing last Sunday means he can make it because of the differences are slightly larger increase between Kenya and the UK at the moment. And then just to touch on it, because we are talking about the fullbacks, I think it's a good time to bring up Dream Team Professor's comments about the improvements in our fullback position this year, and like how in general it's been quite incredible. And obviously last season we had games where like Xhaka was the left back, Cedric was the right back. So we have come a long way. I do think it's actually wild when you look at kind of Ben White, who, you know, we consider him a centre back first and foremost. And I would argue that he has been maybe the best right back in the league this season.
I don't think there's an argument. I really don't.
Like he's genuinely been incredible, and
Dallow's been very good at United.
Dallow has been good.
Yeah,
but the thing with White is, I feel like because there's so many other players we always want to look at and how great they did. Let's say Partey was playing incredible, Jesus was incredible despite not scoring. You know, Saka looked like he was going to have probably the best game of his season before he went off.
Mate, for FPL, he would have absolutely feasted.
It would have been hauling silly. That would have been his points, not Nelson's, I guess. But and then obviously Nelson we wanted to talk about. So I almost feel like every week, like Ben White kind of just, he does it so well that we just don't end up necessarily giving him the kudos and credit of like how well he's adapted to this role and how great he's been doing.
I know.
So I'm really happy to see that for him.
He's incredible. Yeah, he is an absolutely incredible footballer. And yeah, I think he is getting the plaudits outside of Arsenal now, which is nice. And
yeah, he's finally starting to. Yeah, England fans seem to be warming to him and suggesting that it would actually be like suicide of Southgate to not take him, considering the injuries in the right back position at the moment. But yeah, no, we've come a long way, as we said. My favorite part about this picture before we go to the lineup, I just want to. So I love this photo, and there's two main. Firstly, obviously, like when I saw the players celebrating that goal with Nelson at the flag, it was quite close to me because it was on my side in the second half, and they all looked so happy for him.
Yeah,
like you could tell that there was something like an intangible, unspoken bond where it was like they've been watching him in training. I think Arteta had said he'd noticed a difference in him, a maturity. He was doing everything in training. He was just waiting for a chance. And a lot of people had been seeing him sub in like the Europa, and like they weren't impressed. And you know, he's not played much football recently, as we say, he's had injuries as well, and kind of loan spells. It didn't like he did well when he played, but he didn't always play. He finally comes in, he gets this opportunity that, you know, the managers trusted him here, right? He put him on ahead of Eddie, ahead of Vieira. There was other options he could have subbed in, but one of the things I thought was, well, he played Eddie and he played Vieira, and these guys didn't really do much, did they, against PSV? So was the manager maybe thinking at the same time, you know, I've tried those guys in this situation, didn't quite work out. Let's give Nelson a chance, like because of what he's doing. And obviously when he then does score, the way they were so happy for him, it kind of shows me that he must have shown something in training for the manager to be like, you know what, I'm going to put him in ahead of the others. And just in this photo, the main, before I went off on the tangent, in terms of happiness, when you look at, so the first thing I saw, right, was Martinelli. Like, he just looks like just so happy. It's like someone looking at like their girlfriend or wife. He's just so happy for him. But then when you look behind him and you see Tomiyasu's face,
no, the Tommy face cracks me up.
Oh my god! It's like when you zoom in, like I want to make that my phone background. Just Tomiyasu's face with his mouth gaping open in awe. For anyone who's not seen this, if you're listening on podcast, come to the first any part of the first 20 minutes of the show, or find the photo of the full time, and just please like tell me you can't help but fall in love with just Tomiyasu and like just how happy he is for his teammate. Like, this is honestly one of my favorite photos of a celebration this season.
He looks in shock, if anything.
He's just in pure. It's like a kind of like a oh, it's just like a pure shock, as you say. It's like he's always met like his biggest like celebrity crush or something. It's like honestly, he's in shock, I think. But yeah, so I was very happy with him. He's taken that mantle of Cedric arriving in the photos, which Cedric did get a chance to do after he subbed on, obviously.
Before we go into lineup and stuff, I guess we've touched on the first goal, touched on the second. Should we just go through the third?
Yeah, let's talk about the next 3 goals quickly.
Yeah.
So how did you feel then? So the third one was obviously, again, I think Nelson.
I just think like people like Odegaard and Jesus, when they're in the box, like their close control is just absolutely unbelievable. Like the way they just kind of move it about each other. And then Jesus, obviously I didn't get a feel for this during the game. It was only when I watched the highlights. That pass and the movement from Nelson as well to like just get across the front man, incredible. But yeah, I just the variety of the goals, where they came from, I just thought that third one was just a combination of like brilliant interchanging play, like really great close control, and then just that little dink in from Jesus and Nelson beating the man at the near post. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was such a joy to watch that goal.
So you're on mute. Yeah, no, I'm telling the dog to stop barking.
She agreed. She loved it.
Yeah, I think she probably heard.
She captained Nelson in fantasy, didn't she?
Yeah, she's still celebrating the whole. No, honestly, so I think, as you say, and it was in quick succession, right? So I think that's what took me aback. It was kind of like we were all in shock in the stadium that Nelson scored in the first place, and then like minutes later, he comes in and gets another goal.
I didn't actually see the play for the third or the fourth goal because I was facing the other way doing this.
So you're looking at the monitors.
There's a video of me on Twitter just like this, and then you get, because like all of us in the Ashburton Army, we were singing that "We Won the League at Anfield" song, and we were all just facing the other way and like facing the club level and stuff, and then you just see everyone cheering for Partey's goal, and it's like, what the hell? And we were just like, who scored? Like none of us actually saw it.
Yeah, so that was also, again, like it was genuinely
that was
a mirror copy. Yeah, it was a mirror copy of like a few weeks before on the 1st of October when he scored against Spurs. Something like that was, so I was going to say, because obviously we've seen him take, like, before the first goal against Spurs outside the box, my man Partey had taken like 53 fucking shots outside the box. And now he's suddenly got 2
hot shots, right? Like they were rockets. Shots. Like
he did take another one later after the goal, which was the more typical, like, oh, this is our normal Partey back, like straight out the stadium, landed somewhere else.
Yeah, like, but it feels different now. It does feel like, obviously, that is a low XG chance. So, like, we're not going to score that frequently, but I do feel like he's got another 2 of them in his locker for this season. And it feels like, again, it's a structural thing for me where you overload on one side, you pin defend, because that's the thing. You've got someone like, I know it wasn't Saka in that moment, but just for sake of example, if you've got someone like Saka on that right wing, we saw it with Perisic, right? He couldn't deal with him on his own. So then they double up. And then you've got someone like Ben White offering an overlap, which is more of a distraction than anything. And then that just creates that little pocket of space to just roll it in and impart it. All he needs to do, like, he's kind of passing it in, isn't he? But like with a bit of oomph.
Yeah, so I think the difference was this time it felt like he ran onto the ball a bit more.
Yeah.
So, it felt like it was the same location it ended up in, but there was a slight difference. But it was honestly like almost a mirror copy of that game. I do remember Arteta saying, like, over the years that he scores these screamers every week in training, and we were like, where the fuck are they in the game? Like, why does he only ever do it in training? Like, why don't we ever see this shit in, like, when we signed him, I remember thinking, oh, he's got like maybe 5 goals, league goals in him a season, like this would be great. finally we're fucking seeing it happen,
I
which
mean,
I'm
I think
happy for. Like,
if our holding midfielder got 5 Premier League goals a season, I'd be buzzing. But
yeah, but
I
that's
do
what you
feel like
need,
he's got,
right?
yeah,
You need like, if you're going to
goals
get
from
to the
everywhere.
90 goals, 100 goals a season, Arteta spoke about before when we did the
Yeah,
preseason preview. Um, that's what you need. And right
I think,
now, only City has scored more goals than us. So we're on
yeah,
track for something we thought was impossible,
it's
like
true. I
90
think for
to
me,
100 goals.
that goal is repeatable against teams that we just pin back. Like, we absolutely bloody suffocated them. And like, I think this is the other thing. Like, this is irrelevant to any of the goals, but if and when they ever got a sniff, it was just a long ball over the top. And you know how comfortable I just felt just watching Gabriel and Saliba like in a foot race. Like, they're just man mountains. And like, Saliba was just brilliant on Sunday, and he didn't really need to do much, but everything he did such a high standard. And I know Gabriel like was a bit sloppy with that pass for Lingard, but other than that, he was fantastic, and the way he was progressing the ball, and yeah, like, it was just
I'm
such
sure
a
we'll see
nice
some of
team
that in the
performance.
numbers. I'm so excited to see the passing network. We won't spend
Yeah.
long on the heat map. Let's just talk about
But
Odegaard's
just
goal as
quickly,
well.
that just
Mm.
the second, third, and fourth goal, that was all within like less than 10 minutes. Like,
Yeah,
that was unbelievable. Like, if we can see that more often, where we can smell blood and actually go for it, because I strongly believe that, I know I'm not over it. That Southampton game, I strongly believe we could have done something like that in that first half. I
when
really
we
do.
had the opportunity, like, because you said it right, their fans were singing, "You're only 1-0 up. How shit must you be?"
Yeah,
Everyone had kind of resigned themselves to the fact that they were going to get brutally beaten that game, and then look how that bloody ended. So
yeah.
I think we do need to. There was the other stats we saw, wasn't it? Was it from the Crab guy that when it's an even
Oh,
game
that
state?
crab. Yeah,
Yeah, that Crab on Twitter. Like, when we were at even game states, we have like one of the top like attacks in the league, and then like as soon as we're like one goal ahead, we seem to be like proper mid-table. Like, we just
yeah, and
completely
that's
drop
why it
off.
was nice to kind of put that to bed as well. Like, obviously, we need to see that more consistently, but that's more of Sunday. Like, we've said it, we've got this in our locker, and like, yeah, I personally think the fatigue thing was a bit overdone. But yeah, hopefully there's more of that. Yeah, but another random one, by the way. You know when, like, I thought Partey was absolutely phenomenal on Sunday. Like, he was the star of the show for me, in the way he was just dictating things, passing through, like, doing what he does best. He will like intercept, pass through the lines. But was it for Reiss Nelson's first or second goal when Xhaka made that unbelievable run and Partey just split the?
Yeah. So Xhaka ran like 50 yards, maybe 60 yards even,
It was for his
and he got
Nelson's
in at the
first goal,
left
right?
wing. I think he then gave it to Jesus, and then Jesus
Yeah,
gave it off to Nelson.
that, honestly, like, our team is so multi-functional. Like, yeah, we can hurt you from the right, can hurt you from the left. We've got people breaking from the middle. Like, it is such a joy to watch this team, and
It's
it
really
is.
nice to be this excited, like where we are. I don't think we expected to be here at this point in the season. Obviously, like, we still probably wouldn't discuss like a title race anytime soon. But at the end of the day, like, forgetting Man City, when you look at like our hopes going into the season of top four, like the people we're competing against, we're like 10
That's the
points
thing,
ahead
yeah.
of Liverpool, like 8 points ahead of
And it's the
United. Like,
manner in the way we're doing it and the consistency. United have surprised me. They've been more consistent than I thought they would
they've
be.
started to look
But
very good. Yeah.
yeah, but like, for us, I didn't doubt that we would like elevate to another level. I just didn't quite see it being this madness and consistency, because I think you could see last year how good we were, for anyone that paid attention. So yeah, it's really nice to see. But
Just in terms of
yeah,
Xhaka and Partey, so they, I think, combined now this season are kind of like, for goal contributions, they're at like double digits now.
yeah, fair play. That's kind of wild, isn't it?
Yeah, so like that's great to see. In terms of then just I don't know if we need to read the lineup out, but obviously for anyone on podcast who can't see it on the screen, we've got
I guess
Jesus
just
here with his
quickly,
2
it's just the
assists.
fifth goal we've forgotten, isn't it? Just to quickly do
Yeah, of
that one
course.
before.
So Odegaard, yeah. So I guess I felt like, in the same way that we said Partey had like an incredible game, for me, like Partey, Jesus, and Odegaard, all three of them were like standout performers. And I
Yeah,
almost feel like it would have been a shame if Odegaard hadn't got a goal, because like we may not have remembered just all the work he put in. It almost felt like a lot of the time he would be the one he'd be in and around making most of the chances happen, but he wasn't necessarily the one getting the assist because he would lay it off to someone else who would then lay it off to the goal scorer in the
What a
end.
finish that was as well, though, isn't it? Like, again, his close control kind of,
Those
Jesus gave it
tidy
to him.
feet,
Yeah, like in such a tight area to
that was
wallop
the
it
other
in.
photo I loved. One of my photos this season, him with like 5 players around him
Oh yeah,
with
you
his
sent me that.
arms
I
out
forgot
like
to
this.
include
And,
that. Yeah,
and
but
I was like, my God, like he looks like a star here.
it's another one though. Like on the preview pod, FPL Rubber Ducky was on, and he was asking us, "Oh, what do you think about Odegaard?" And we both said, in a game like this, yeah, central zones, we can hurt them. Like, and I think Odegaard will do really well, especially at home against teams where, like I said, we pin them back and we have got our structure like absolutely suffocated around their neck. And then you've got those central zones, like against Bournemouth, where it's like second balls and he's arriving in really high areas. I think that's where he'll thrive from a fantasy perspective. But yeah, another brilliant goal. And to be honest, Jesus could have scored a couple as well.
Yeah, I think he'll be frustrated. You can't like. There's no worries for me.
No,
He's on
not at
5
all.
goals, 5 assists in the league. You know, when we signed him, what were we expecting? Like 15 goals? I think I said I'd be happy. Maybe 13, 14.
Yeah,
I said in the league, maybe 20 at a push. Okay, he slowed down a bit, but so long as the team is scoring 5 goals and he's got a big part to play in that, I don't really care. Like
no,
for
normally.
me, like it doesn't bother me. Like he's still central to everything we did. On another day, there's 2 goals from there. I understand he's maybe underperformed his XG, but like his non-penalty XG was at 1.3 last game. Like,
Yeah.
that's very high for a single player in a match.
He'll have another explosion like Leicester. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind about it. Like, and yeah, I'm with you. There's nothing to
Yeah,
be
like he gets
concerned
a
about.
hat trick here, there, a brace somewhere
Obviously,
else.
if like last year the goals dry up from other areas, then we are going to need him to kind of step
Yeah.
up. But right now, it's not an issue at all.
Yeah, I think obviously like it's not great. Like for his own confidence, I'm sure he's annoyed. But you know, the team is doing great and he's integral to it. Like we could not play the way we do without him. He's like
Yeah.
one of the most important players we have for everything we do. He basically leads the defense from the front line. He is like our Firmino,
And his
but hopefully with more
combinations with
output.
everyone, the way he drags opposition out of position, because that's the difference. I've seen some lazy comparisons to Lacazette. It's a different light year to Lacazette. Like this guy will drag people out of position, but he'll also have the energy to get back in there. The way he combines in wide areas and pockets is phenomenal. Like Lacazette was good at kind of dropping into the final third, twerking on
But then if
someone,
you were a
pass the
defender,
ball.
right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're a
He was so
defender,
easy,
you
yeah.
don't even go with him because like you're like, well, okay, like let him drop deep. I won't go with him. Like, what's he gonna do? And then if they did go with him, they didn't need to feel threatened because they were like, well, if I go
Yeah,
with him, he's not fast enough to turn me and then run into
exactly.
the box. So they're
And
like,
that's the
it's
thing.
fine. Whereas with Jesus, they got to think twice. Like if you go to meet Jesus when he's dropped deep, he could nutmeg you and run into the box and score. So
Exactly.
you have to think twice when you come and mess with him.
Yeah.
Like
Lacazette would literally get the ball and pass it. This guy, he can do that. He can pass it, but he can also take it on the half turn. Like you said, he can nutmeg you. He can take it around. He'll
his
pivot. Like,
dribbling's great. His hold
yeah.
up, like his strength. And then we both said like the strength and dribbling, we did not
No,
quite
did not.
expect that it would be
Yeah.
that polished. Like we knew like what he was good at, but we did not know that his dribbling abilities were the level they are.
Yeah. He has elevated our attack. So yeah, nothing to be concerned about. But obviously, it would bloody help if he could find his finishing boots.
I guess the question is, does Arteta play him tomorrow or does he just come off the bench? Like, is he
Yeah, I don't
saving the
know.
goals against Chelsea or does he want him to break that duck against Zurich tomorrow night?
Yeah,
I don't know.
part of me thinks he might start and kind of
Like, I
try
wonder if we
put
go for very strong, kill the
and
game, like you're saying, maybe like 2-3 goals, and
yeah,
then sub off all the starters for Chelsea.
that's
It
what I
could go
think.
one of
Yeah,
2 ways, and that's maybe something that could happen. But
like,
we
I don't
know
think
he wants to
Saka will
win.
play tomorrow, but I
I hope
could.
not. He said he's available for it, but
Yeah, yeah,
I hope he bloody doesn't. You would think that Nelson did everything he possibly could to warrant a start, and it's quite rare for a fringe player to potentially play maybe 3 games as a starter in the space of a couple of weeks. Because obviously we've got Brighton in the cup the week after, so
yeah,
this is a good opportunity for Nelson to get a good little run of games, and just like continue building on that confidence and momentum for himself. I
yeah,
don't think it means we don't go for a winger. Like that sounds like that's a big plan for the January window. Then we
yeah,
still do want depth, but yeah, I guess in terms of the 11, like, there isn't much to say. Obviously, we said Tommy Arsu started ahead of Tierney. The rest of the 11 was pretty much what it's been every week. So let's go on to the kind of more statistical side of the review. We talked about like our summary and kind of our perspective in the stadium of the match. So all of these bits, when I saw them from the Mark Stats account on Twitter, I do think like not this section specifically, but the following sections, it was like the perfect blueprint of like how I would love to see Arsenal play go forward in every game. Like every single element. When you look at like I don't want to spoil it, but when you get to the control zones of possession or control zones, we looked at, was it territories of control? That's one. I know what you mean, because in that one, it's actually disgusting. I don't think I've seen anything like that this season for us or for any team.
No.
So we'll get there and we'll give the surprise. But for the rolling XG, obviously, it is slightly different to the stats bomb model. I know that.
Yeah, RIP stats bomb has free data.
So no longer accessible. Obviously, FBref is now using Opta, and
very annoying.
So that is very upsetting in the community. So the XG here was 2.73 for Arsenal versus 0.28 for Forest. The expected threat was 2.27 for Arsenal versus 0.73 for Palace Forest. The possession was 68% to 31%. Field tilt's pretty big. 81.5% of our time in their final third.
That is insane. So
they spent only 18%. Like in terms of their final third and our final third, we spent 80% of the time in their final third compared to their 18% in our final third. So that is crazy. Don't think you see that often. Defensive line height, interestingly, it's not as high as it's been some games for us. 49.5. It's still pretty high, but it's not as high as it's been.
I think they were just aware of obviously their threat on the counter, right? I think it was for me, it was as simple as let anyone except the back four just go and do their thing, and just let the likes of Gabriel Saliba just take 2, 3, 4 yards back, just step a little bit back. So then because that's all they had, right? They couldn't play through us. They just had to hoof it and try and run onto it. So I think that was all it was for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. That makes sense. So in terms of the actual graphics, so you can see that like in the first half, in the first half, as we say, like after that kind of goal, there's like a small increase in cumulative XG after about the 15-minute mark. It stays pretty flat all the way till half time.
Yeah.
But as soon as the second half starts, we start accumulating XG like wild. Yeah. So that was good to see that we didn't have the kind of slow second half we've been getting accustomed to for a few weeks. It's nice to put that to bed, hopefully, and continue from there. So this passing network was just insane. Martinelli's basically in the edge of the box. Tomiyasu, as you can see, he is past the halfway line, as is White, pretty much in most of the passes he was getting. It's just kind of crazy. Like you got Ramsdale on the edge of his own penalty box.
Yeah.
Like he's literally like playing almost out of our final third is his average passing network position. And as usual, Saliba's kind of the sweeper at the back on his own, just distributing the ball around. But it's nice to see that, as you said, like even though different players come in, those triangles seem to be maintained. So you've got Nelson obviously here with Partey and White, interestingly. So Odegaard, I noticed he was very high up.
Yeah,
and even towards the end of the game, he was really pressing. Like I was like, oh wow, how has he got this much energy still? Like he is.
That's the one thing he has always been for me the standout presser in the team. Like especially like when he obviously came in on loan and quite a poor Arsenal team. But that was the one thing I was like. One of my lazy narratives was when we got him. I was like, oh, he's a technical number 10, this, that. But like that kind of workhorse ethic that he's got is something that really surprised me. And I was surprised on Sunday with how high he was, because we know our number 8s have been getting into the box quite a lot more, but I've not seen him that sustained in high positions this season.
Yeah, because in this game, like you can see here in the passing network, like Jesus is further back than him, right? Only Martinelli's ahead of him in that passing network.
Yeah. It's nice to see in this as well. Obviously, this is what I like about this passing network as well. It was from, in my opinion, the period where we played the best football in the game, minutes 27 to 65. So obviously 27 onwards was a little bit flat, but after that was just a clinic from Arsenal. And everything, I really liked what you said about, you thought this performance, if that could be the blueprint for what Arteta's Arsenal is, that for me is exactly it. Everything you could see that we know about the team tactically came together, like the rotations, the zones, everyone knowing their role. attacking from the left, attacking through the center, attacking on the right, the overloads, creating space. Like, it was absolutely phenomenal. Like, it was a clinic. It was an absolute clinic. And I think central to that is Partey, man. He was absolutely
he had
unbelievable.
114 passes here, which the second most was 70 Gabriel Magalhaes and 69 White. So
yeah, but
they almost double the passes of anyone
it
else,
was
and
the
these were good.
variety. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the variety in his passes as well, though. Like, I think the one thing I constructively criticize him for is I think he always goes aggressive in his passing. I think there's sometimes no need for that. But a game like on Sunday, that was where you could see the benefits of. He is one of the most aggressive, progressive passers, I think, in the league. And he does it to a level that I don't see anyone else doing. The way he breaks the lines, the way he is so press resistant. He is our best attacker in a weird way because of how he sets up attacks. It is incredible.
well, if
And
you
yeah,
look
he was just
here,
central to it all.
his passing network is him in and out of 6 of the other 9 outfield players. The only
Exactly.
3 players he wasn't really passing to were Odegaard, who'd gone way too high up the pitch for Partey to find him. So the plan was like Partey gets it to Nelson, then Nelson gets it to Odegaard in the middle, or Partey gets it to Jesus on the left, then Jesus gets it to Odegaard or Martinelli. So it's really just kind of Martinelli and it's Martinelli. Actually, no, so 7 lines. So it's just Martinelli and Odegaard that he really wasn't kind of getting the ball to.
Yeah, and
He was
like
always
he
passing
obviously
everyone else,
was just not
but
on a
just through
frequent
someone
basis.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, like top performance, and I just like having how we have Martinelli typically just out there as an outlet as well, because I think the way we stretch the pitch, and that's what I really liked in what Tomiyasu gives us. Like when Tommy's in there linking up with the likes of Jesus, Xhaka, creating those nice triangles, Martinelli's able to hold the width. We just give teams so many problems and
They
things to
don't
think
know what
about,
to
but
do because every game
they
now I've
don't.
been watching, like
Yeah,
last 2 I went to, like especially this one, Martinelli's just like on the touchline. Like he is so high and so wide, and you're like I can hear people
just
constantly saying like, "Give
put
him the ball,
yourself.
give him the
Yeah,
ball, give him the ball,"
put
but like the
yourself in the
team won't give
shoes
him
of
the
the
ball.
opposition.
Yeah, so
Like
they don't know what
what
to
do you
do.
do?
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like, do you go to him? But then, like, we don't then pass to him. So we're like playing with the opposition's mind because they're like, well, he's there. The outlet's there. Like, we literally have no one covering that space. But they keep like passing it back to like Gabriel Magalhaes or to Saliba, and then next it goes to Partey. Oh, look, suddenly there's bloody Tomiyasu has the ball.
yeah.
And they're just like, okay, like, we're safe. They're not going to pass him. And then out of nowhere, bang, suddenly, like, Jesus drops back, gets the ball from Tommy or Xhaka, boom, straight up to Martinelli.
And
Next thing you know, we're in the box.
that's the biggest thing I always talk about our positional play and our structures and framework on the pitch and how it then moves the opposition. It is elite. It is so well coached. I can't tell you. It is incredible.
Did you see the so I can't remember who it was, but one of the pundits, I think they said they spoke to a defender at Forest after the game. They said, I won't name the defender, but they said, I spoke to one of the Forest defenders, I won't name them, but they said that the Forest
I think it was
defenders,
David Seaman.
yeah, that's it. That's who it was. David
Safe
Sneeman
hands
spoke
himself.
to so he spoke to a Forest defender after the game, and I can't remember the exact words. So verbatim, it was something along the lines of like they just did not know like what to do. They were terrified of Arsenal's attack. Like they just they couldn't comprehend like how do you deal with this attack? Like as you say, they're coming from everywhere. It's not just like where last season it was just the right wing. It was just Saka. We just relied on one side of the pitch. If we can't get through on one wing, we just recycle the ball to the other side.
We've got 4, 5, 6 different sources of goals now. It is incredible. And like, pardon the pun, but we've got so many weapons in our arsenal. And like, that is what the top teams have, right? And that's something that we have lacked for a long time. So yeah, I think we're one of the best coached teams in Europe. I honestly do. And
I think most of the opposition managers would agree. It's only armchair fans on Twitter who kind of maybe dispute that. If you look at kind of what most managers say, I know we're used to thinking things are mind games. So obviously Klopp was praising us, Thomas Frank was praising us, Conte was praising us. Every manager we've played was praising us. And obviously people on Twitter are like, oh, it's just mind games. They always say this to you before they come and slap you up. Pep was praising us, for example. At some point, you just got to accept, like, look, guys, like every fucking coach in world football and in England especially is out here talking about. It's like Sterling has just fucking come out and basically said, like, oh man, like what Arsenal are doing is incredible. Like,
is it? I've not seen that.
He was like, they create so many chances and, they've stuck with their manager. They've built a long-term project. we need to do that at Chelsea. We can't, like, he's basically implying we can't keep
Oh, wow.
sacking people. He's like, we need to follow the Arsenal way. We need to build a long-term plan.
He's
we want to
twerking for a
create...
move, isn't he?
Yeah, so
Don't
he's
want
like,
you.
you know, we've got to create more. But again, people will tell you it's just mind games because it's always the week before we play someone.
Do you know
Obviously,
what?
coaching
I
the
feel
players
like
somehow.
I'm someone like, you know me, how nerdy I am. I love underlying data. I love all of that. Sometimes just be simple about it. Like, look at the league table. Like 12 games have gone. You've seen in the Premier League how teams are dropping points left, right, and centre. The fact that 12 games have gone and we've dropped the least amount of points out of everyone, that's all you need to know. Like the level of consistency in this league
Every
is
match is
very
a hard
difficult.
match in this league. People tell you there's easy games. There are no easy games. You know,
And
like
there's one thing racking up the points, but the manner and the way we're doing it, it is impressive. And yeah,
it's
people
what
just
we
need to
said
accept
before.
it.
It's not the Unai Emery days of 22
Nah.
game unbeaten run where you start in fifth and finish in fifth, and everything is basically like shit performances where Watford gets 30 fucking crosses in against, and they got 9 men, and then they're like crossing in 30 times, and you're like, how? Like, how can they be attacking us at our stadium this much while they have a man down? Like, it just does not make sense.
Yeah.
So I feel much more. I feel like, I don't know about you, but any game we go into now, like say Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge, obviously we'll talk about it in the preview, so I won't spoil that. But I just don't feel like the nerves I used to. Like, I'm confident that if we, but as in, like, I feel confident that if we play our way, we can win any game. I almost like, I believe that if we're gonna lose, it's gonna be of our own doing. It's because we didn't play at the level we can play at on that given day. I don't believe that we're gonna lose because someone's gonna completely outplay us, right? Like when we lost to United, Rashford came out after and he obviously played in the fucking game and he was like, it was a really close game. So when you got these United fans telling me like, we absolutely destroyed you, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, you literally got outplayed.
It's very easy to know who knows their football. Like that's it. Like just be selective of who you.
And you know, like I was saying, this is a hard league. So you look at last weekend, right? Like Brighton absolutely turned over Chelsea, 4 goals. You know, maybe we don't want to be playing Chelsea straight after a sour defeat like that, of course. But equally, Chelsea aren't creating anything. We are a team that are creating a lot. We just need to make sure we're clinical on the day. And then in terms of the other teams, so
Aubameyang's got a bag, isn't he?
Yeah. So in terms of other teams, obviously United won, but just about, like, West Ham looked very much in that game. Yeah, so West Ham looked very much in that game. Just about scraped their victory, and then Bournemouth scored 2 fucking goals against Spurs.
Yeah.
Like, they just about got through and survived from the skin of their teeth. And I was watching some of the game last night.
City only beat Leicester 1-0 as well. Like it's a tough league.
And it was very close for Leicester to score. I think it was maybe Tielemans. He had some crazy shot for a volley from a free kick, and like, again, like, so it's not easy. Like, when people tell me you're playing easy teams, I'm like, how can you say that? Like, this is a league where any team could beat any team on a given day.
Exactly.
So the consistency over that period, like, surely at some point you've got to, like, as an opposition fan, just be like, okay, banter aside, like, you know what, like, this project's quite exciting.
Yeah, like I can't get Spurs fans. I can understand because there's that tribal element. Like you don't want to see your rivals doing well, but I don't see how anyone else can't look at us as one of the most exciting projects in Europe. We've got one of the youngest teams.
Well, we've got the youngest starting 11
Europe
this season in the Prem.
Yeah, we've got one of the youngest managers out there, and the football we are playing is exceptional. Like I don't get how neutrals don't look at us as exciting, but yeah, I don't care about trying to influence people anymore. To be honest, I think people that know football, you can see it with your own eyes what's going on at Arsenal.
Of course, and then let's go through these final couple graphics for the viewers as well. So
yeah, I just wanted to include this because
this looks great. Like obviously Partey as well.
Yeah.
Thomas Partey, man. So you said 116 pass attempts, 103 completed. Couple passes into the box, passes all over the pitch. He was the engine of the team. His progression, though, I think that's where the big one comes in. So his progression via passing, 8.95. Progression via carry, 3.85. So in terms of like progression via pass, progression via carry on the graphic, he is up there in the top right of the quadrant all on his own. Gabriel Magalhaes is close to him from a carry perspective, but not necessarily from a passing perspective. Saliba's a little bit lower down, but he's still doing very well. But this is one of the few matches I've looked at and like the opposition team is not in sight, though. Like they're just not in sight. Like they're in the bottom left quadrant for like 0 for any kind of carrying in any shape
Exactly.
or form. Like Tomiyasu's doing all right there. White's doing great via the passing. Odegaard's central. Nelson via carrying. So as we say, once he found his confidence, he started carrying the ball a bit more and getting a bit more adventurous. But honestly, it was just like this was exactly how I want to see us play. Like this is
Yeah.
how I want to see us set up to play going
And
forwards.
we can, like, it's sustainable. That's what the biggest frustration about Southampton was. Like, we have seen us play this way, right? We've seen it in a combination of bursts, but Brentford away, that was sustained. It was similar to the Forest game. Southampton, that first half hour, that was unbelievable. Like, there were periods in the Leeds game, we did it in bursts. Like, the way we play is copy and paste. Like, it is translatable to any game, any match, any opposition. We can impose and imprint our style of play against people, and that is a tough thing to do. Not many teams can do that, and that is the sign of a top team. So yeah, hopefully we just continue to see this more
Yeah,
often.
like
And
we don't change the way we play for the opposition, right? Like we just
no,
play our way, and that's the only
exactly.
plan.
And I think the biggest thing on Sunday though was that ruthlessness. Like you saw it with the XG versus the actual output. Like that ruthlessness in the final third, because we get the ball into the right areas all the time. It's like I always talk about it. People talk about like City and Arsenal as like structured teams, like some say robotic. I'm like, you don't understand what on earth you're talking about. The structure is there as a framework. Once you get into the final third, it's a structure there that allows you to go and be creative and
It's
do
then up
like
to the
have the
player
freedom.
to.
Yeah,
It's
and
the old
that's
Wenger model of obviously Wenger was less of a tactician because back in those days it was more like I will train you, I will coach you, I will give you the tactics, and then on the pitch, I believe in you to just your own brilliance will carry you and will
like
win.
this, like
But this
especially
is
with
like more
modern
like
football.
you now it's like Arteta and modern football is all about I will coach you to get into that final third.
Yeah.
And once you're there, that's where your individual brilliance
And
needs to
that's
come
where
out,
you
your
can see the
ruthlessness.
balance of the team and who we've got in those final thirds and the attributes they've got. And yeah, I really hope we just see that same level of ruthlessness because we have got it in us to absolutely wallop teams at home. We really do. It's just whether we decide to get out of second gear or not on a consistent basis.
I hope we do. So let's look at this zone 14 and half space passes. So for anyone who's
Yeah, my
new,
favorite.
yeah, this is definitely more exciting than most of the graphics. For anyone on podcast, I do recommend if you check the 51-minute timestamp, you can see this graphic. So just to explain, obviously the half spaces are kind of the two left and right hand sides of the penalty box, and then also just going out into the final third. Zone 14 is that middle section outside the box, and it's kind of very central, and it's kind of obviously either side of it are the half spaces. So what we've seen a lot this season is our number eights, whether it's Odegaard or Xhaka, collecting the ball in that kind of half space. But zone 14 as well, like this game especially, we have 40 touches there, so passes even, and 66 passes in the half space. It's like I don't know if you're going to find numbers like that for any match in
I don't
Europe
think
this season.
I don't think I've seen it so far this season. And like that was an absolute clinic. And the way we play as a team, we absolutely look to exploit those half spaces with the overloads. I always talk about overloads, and it's always in that kind of right half space, the final third, and yeah, zone 14 as well. And I think we were just able to absolutely exploit them there, and that was incredible. I've not seen numbers like this ever, and I think when you're looking, okay, not ever, but like this season, and when you're looking at how we play, like it was from the minute the first goal went in, you just thought, oh, this is going to be long for them because we were just able to get there with ease. And I think it was Partey progressing the ball into the people in the right pockets on such a frequent, consistent basis. It was, yeah, Forest would have PTSD from that because that was absolutely
Well, Seaman
phenomenal.
said they do, right? Like he literally spoke to their defenders, and like it
Yeah.
was probably the worst day of their season
But
so
that's the thing.
far.
Like, I think a lot of people don't really look at this with us. Like, we are set up as a very good crossing team, and like we don't have big men up top, but the movement that we've got in the way Jesus and Martinelli get around, like so often the deliveries come from either Saka or Martinelli, but they're both phenomenal with crosses. And if you're getting the ball in a half space there, you've got the time to get your head up, get the cross in, and you've got the movement we've got. Like the way we're set up as a team, we have got the options to put in consistent crosses and create moments of like good quality chances, which you're seeing us do. And then there's one thing, like you're not always going to convert from a cross, but the secondary factor, which I think people always ignore, is the ricochets and the second balls that are in and around that. And that's what City do, right? They get the ball into the half space, but what they do often is it's an overlap and they'll drill it in and they'll try either convert from there or get a ricochet and a second ball. We're doing it slightly different in that we have got that overlap option, but we're quite often getting the ball into that wide half space and we're curling it in. And then we're hoping to either convert or again pick up the ricochets. And I think just having that kind of variety to our play without a natural big man up top, it's special. It's really, really clever.
I think the other thing kind of just worth adding here is like I do think that we perhaps don't utilize crosses enough. So kind of seeing Saka cross to Martinelli.
PSV,
yeah, like seeing Saka cross to Martinelli for that first goal, it makes you think like we could definitely use that more as a tool. I do think we do try to kind of make an overlapping run, as you say, into the half space more often, and then like cut back into the box to like one of the runners. And we have lots of options, but I don't see us scoring many goals from crosses. And when you look at like Liverpool when they were playing much better, and obviously City, like you mentioned, these teams cross at this.
They're relentless with it. Yeah,
it's just endless. Like minute after minute, there's a cross coming into your box. Like at some point, you're gonna fuck up and you're gonna concede to them just because of that.
That's the thing. Like people focus so much on XG and high quality chances. Liverpool were one of the best around at just overwhelming the opposition. And it's just like it becomes a numbers game, and so just keep spamming them and you will just completely overwhelm them. And they'll make mistakes. Like not every goal needs to be perfectly curated. You can create chances through mistakes. And yeah, that is another tactic of doing it.
So just before we go, guys, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the live chat. While we wait for your questions to come in about the Forest game and maybe anything about Zurich you want to ask for tomorrow, I'm going to quickly share my screen, actually, because that kind of graphic I was telling you about the territories of control, I don't think we have it in the slides this week, but I have it up here, and I just absolutely had to show this because, as I say, I've never seen anything like this for our team. So out of possession, you got Saliba basically like off the ball, controlling like our entire final third on his own. You got Gabriel kind of just standing there as a left back because Tomiyasu was playing in the midfield. You then got Partey kind of covering like both halves of the pitch, but very little. Odegaard putting in incredible work, and Jesus covering the fucking entire pitch from left back up to the centre forward.
You see that a lot with Jesus. He's in these a lot.
And he's like, I saw him. There was a moment where there was a huge roar in the stadium because they'd like kind of gotten into our final third for us. And like the last person I expected to see, like Jesus just comes and tackles the ball. And I'm like, where has he come from? Like, how did he get here to this position? Like, wasn't he just at centre forward? Like, how has he had the mindset that, you know what, I'm going to come all the way back. I'm going to fucking defend this attack, prevent them from scoring, give it to someone, and then I'll go back to the striker position and wait again. Like it's just phenomenal. But have you ever seen it where there's only, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our players appear on the out of possession map?
No.
But the rest of them don't even appear. Like, so that tells you how much control we had. In the possession, this I like even more because
it's beautiful. So
Ramsdale's not even in his fucking like penalty box in possession. Like he's literally sitting in almost like outside of our final third for the entire game in possession. And then the circle, as you say, just I know obviously Martinelli's a bit higher up, so he kind of ruins the perfect circle, but that's a good thing he does that, as we mentioned earlier. But just the way that team like looks so well gelled in possession, like it's what you were saying. Like this is the new way we want to play football, right? Like we're not playing in positions anymore. People are playing in zones.
Yep.
You don't have a position on the pitch that you stick to. You're expected to operate in a zone and be competent and comfortable in all parts of that zone. That's why Zinchenko was so important to us early on in the season. That's why perhaps Tomiyasu is now getting ahead of Tierney into this pecking order. But yeah, I just wanted to put this on the screen because honestly, I think I've not seen anything like this season. I don't know if we'll see anything like this again this season from a territories of control point of view, but it was definitely a very nice one.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Cool. So I'm just going to read out some of the comments in the chat and then we'll get out of here. So We had a couple more comments. So Christopher Tellez, he mentioned that Ben White is his player of the season. And, obviously that's saying a lot considering how many high performers we have. And he goes on to say Southgate should be sacked on the spot if he's not in the squad. So let's keep a lookout. I think the final 26-man team comes out a week tomorrow.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's getting close now. And then Christopher again, just talking about the Chelsea game on the weekend. He says, Aubameyang, blood clot Zet, has been absolutely rubbish lately, but I have no doubt in my mind he's going to score against us. It will probably be a header from a corner as well, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Do you think he'd celebrate if he scores?
I think he will. Yeah, I think he's a prick. Like I think, yeah, like just as a person. Like obviously when he played for us, like obviously you kind of back your players and you put up with their nonsense. But he's a man child. Like, yeah, I don't think he gives a shit about any of that stuff.
Shout out to all the man childs in the world. So I think all in all, great show. We're at the hour mark, so we'll get out of here and looking forward to going to the match tomorrow. Hopefully a few of us can meet up in the pub. I think there's about 5-6 people coming from the community, so
nice.
From the FPL community. So we're going to try and meet for a drink. I think we might go to that spot we went to with Angus, like just outside the stadium, because then at least it's like right by the turnstiles and stuff.
Yeah.
All in all, if anyone else is going to be there tomorrow, let us know. Try grab a drink before the match or after. And we'll obviously try and do the preview on Friday. It's normally around
Big
lunchtime.
Game.
Yeah, so I think we don't know when the presses are going to be yet, but we'll find out what time the Arteta presser is on Friday, and we'll try to go sometime between maybe midday and 2:30.
This is it.
Something like that.
On the home stretch to the World Cup now. So yeah,
this is it, man. Just 4 more games to go.
Get that Group 1 tomorrow, first and foremost, and then Chelsea. That is it's another opportunity for a statement, I think. And obviously we'll preview it on Friday, but that is a big game. And I think they have been very inconsistent recently, but I always say the big teams, they find it within themselves for one-off games, apart from Tottenham.
Yeah, no. So I think, as you say, this is going to be a wild game against Chelsea. We'll talk about it more in the preview. For anyone who's new, the previews are typically actually much shorter because obviously they're just a few days before deadline. Find your love here. Okay. For anyone in the chat, you can find your love there if you like. Thank you. For some reason, the account
I hope my girlfriend's not watching.
So for anyone on podcast, we have a spammer in the live chat, 69girls.xyz. So I don't have my moderator status in the moment, so feel free to block them. But aside from the spammer that just arrived, it's not as funny as when the Tottenham fan arrived one time to try and make banter, and then obviously we then played them and we saw how that went. So you should always be careful when you send shots at people just before you play their team. I always like to send banter after you beat someone, not before, because it can go very wrong and explode in your face. But we'll see everyone on Friday. That's much shorter, as I said. The previews are normally 15 to 20 minutes. So join us on Friday lunchtime.
Are you confident for tomorrow?
I am. Yeah. I think PSV are a significantly better team than Zurich. And with it being at home, with the home crowd, I think we have what it takes, even if it's a rotated team, to go and win this and just make sure we top this group. So
I'm with the Ashburton lot again tomorrow, so my voice is only just recovering, and let's see how it goes.
And you're already going to lose it again.
Yeah.
All right, nice one, everyone. Up the Arsenal. We'll see you on Friday, and thank you so much for tuning in for the Nottingham Forest 5-0 review.
Cheers, everyone. Top of the league. Up the Arsenal.
There we go. Come on, you Gunners.